Two. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chasing Quality. This is episode 40, and with us, as always, is RJ. RJ, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, Jake. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we're doing something different today, aren't we?
We are.
This is
We are. It's interesting, right? It feels different.
Feels different, huh? Yeah, I've kind of gotten used to the camera, so it probably feels a little more different for you. But yeah. So we're going to try to do video and audio this time.
Oh, cool.
Trying to keep it, but we're trying to
keep it fresh.
We're trying to keep it fresh. We're trying to make sure that we're still audio friendly, right?
Right.
So that the people who are listening to this can still listen to it without needing the video. And we're going to also review a video, right? We're going to review that final project.
Right, and we're thinking about putting this up as a video itself.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it, but I guess apparently a lot of people listen to podcasts over YouTube.
Yeah. Well, there's that one that's very long, very popular.
Tell me about
it. They do it on the YouTube as well.
Who's that?
Mr. Rogan.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. Yeah, he had Willie D on there, and Mike Judge the other day. Willie D's from Ghetto Boys. I don't know much of the music, but I do like Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster. But that was a really interesting podcast. Very long. So before we get into this other stuff, though, what have you been up to?
Houston represent.
Yeah.
What have I been up to? Man, so we had our first snow.
Yeah, we did.
Wednesday?
Sounds right.
You might have gotten more out where you are. We got, I don't know, 3 inches, something like this. And it stuck pretty solid. Enough that I wanted to make sure. So my wife is slightly immobile right now on crutches, so I wanted to make sure I got the driveway cleaned off and stuff like that. Well, anybody that shoveled snow knows that sometimes you leave that little bit of slush behind. And then if it warms up, refreezes, a little more rain, whatever, you'll get like a very slick ice. Like there's rough ice. But anyway. And I was not prepared, did not get in sidewalk salt, ice salt this year. So I had to run out to the store. And as I went, I cut through the grass to get out to the sidewalk, to walk out to my car, parking not good here. And I wasn't thinking about how I walked, and just my feet went out from underneath me, and I tried to catch myself and just made something jank in my back, basically.
Yeah, jank in the back is not it's not enjoyable. It's not a good thing.
No, jank in the back, like Jack in the Box, but less good.
Did your yoga help though? I mean, you do a lot of yoga, right?
I have some really good like books on yoga that
Namaste,
I don't use.
Yeah.
Namaste at home is what I should have said before I walked outside. And then I bathed the dogs yesterday. But other than that, I haven't done much of anything. And I have one 20-pound dog. I don't know. And then one 100-pound dog.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
They made cameo appearances in that video, didn't they?
They do. They make appearances in this video. We're getting ready to take a look at. Take a look at the awesome job that Jake did. And my dogs are the standouts, scene stealers. So, how about you? What have you been up to since we last spoke?
Okay, well, we had snow too. I have a snowblower. We've got a lot of driveway. So I did a few years ago, get a snowblower. You weren't here at the time, I don't think, but I guess it's been about 8 or 9 years now. We got 2 back-to-back snowstorms that dropped about 36 inches each.
I was actually up in the area at the time.
Yeah, that was insane. And the first time I actually, believe it or not, shoveled it all by hand. And then we ended up paying somebody with a skid steer to do it again. And after that, then a few years later, we decided we really needed a snowblower. and we've when the years we've used it, it's gotten good use. And so I went and I knew it was going to come. I knew it was going to melt a little bit and then
Hmm.
refreeze. And so I went and got the first. We probably got about 6 inches total. I got the first 4 or 5 inches off before the sleet started coming down. So we do still have a little bit of ice on the driveway, but it prevented something much worse. So,
That's good.
so that was part of my Wednesday. I've been working on these cabinets,
These are the
the office cabinets.
semi built-ins.
Yeah, semi-built-ins. They'll have a secretary for my wife's computer, and that's going along pretty well. My shop it's not small. I mean, it's a good adequate sized shop, just not for a project that large.
Okay.
Uh, so that does slow me down a little bit. I'm recording it as I go along, so that slows me down a little bit. But I'm making progress. I've got to run out to Home Depot after this to get some more plywood. But I've got that going on, and I'm doing a new computer build slash upgrade for my current computer.
Okay.
The build is for my wife and daughter. So I've been kind of playing around with that to see which upgrades have the biggest impact on Premiere Pro performance.
Computer parts are difficult to get right now.
There, yes, video cards especially. Yeah, yeah. The video cards are pretty much all sold out, and on the used market, they're going for about twice their MSRP.
Mm.
But I was able to get a slightly older one that's not necessarily highly sought after for a pretty good, what I felt was a pretty good price and still an upgrade.
Yeah, an
Um,
upgrade from what you had.
yeah, so yeah, so I've got that going on. Yep,
Nice.
and I finished up the video. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Um,
Yeah, great job, man.
oh, thank you.
Everybody that's seen it, obviously, my opinion is also that you did a great job. Um, and to me, I think the most impressive part, right, is I I saw a lot of the stages
Hmm.
along the way, right? Like the B-roll, um, the interview, all these kind of things. And many of the parts, and I'll probably talk about it, after we see it, what you ended up doing with it, how you worked it in, it was just very cool. Um, so
Well, thank you.
yeah,
Appreciate
man.
that. Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I take these classes that have projects, and any class that has a project, I tend to overdo projects.
Okay.
Uh, I'm not quite sure why. I don't think it's perfectionism so much. It may be, but this one was special. It was different because it was a good friend, who is the subject
Aw.
of this video, and that was more important to me. Like had you not been the subject of it, I
Hmm.
probably would have spent half as much time on it.
Hmm.
Unless somebody else was the subject and they were, important too, like it's my wife or whatever. But if it was just some other video, I probably wouldn't have spent so much time on it. But there was a lot of tweaking to try to get the story right where I wanted it. Um, that was hard. That took a lot of time.
Well, we talked for an hour and a half that day,
Yeah, yeah. I got an hour and a half of interview footage. Yeah,
and you have made a video that is 5 minutes and 43 seconds, start to stop,
yeah.
including a bit of credits.
Hmm.
So, and then there's some silent, um,
There are a
I'll
couple
say
pauses. Yeah.
empty space
Hmm.
of me running my mouth,
Yeah.
that are involved. And so I mean, it's an art form.
Yeah.
It's this is Reader's Digest of that
Hmm.
conversation
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, should we just go ahead then and move on to that portion of the podcast?
Yeah, if you're ready to, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe first, why don't you tell us? I mean, you're moderating, but why don't you tell us first about kind of what your either goals were or what your guidelines, your right and left limits for creating the video,
Hmm.
so that when people see it, they can understand. Oh well, they might have a question. Why did he do this?
Hmm.
Why didn't he do that?
Hmm.
Um, and this might answer some of
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. Well. First off, I'm not gonna say it was a one man show because special thanks go out obviously to the star, RJ. And
for
then
running his mouth.
a lot of thanks go out to Sean too, who he had a song which I felt was very appropriate, and then
Hmm.
he re-recorded it for us to extend it out a little bit to match it. And I really, honestly, I looked at hundreds of songs probably trying to find what I felt was going to be appropriate. I was looking for something that kind of had some sort of, I don't know if I'd say like a metal kind of, and you and I have talked about, right, what is metal and what is not metal, but I wanted something
Hmm.
that was kind of almost maybe more like a Guns N' Roses type of end of that spectrum, right? There was some sort
Hmm.
of hard rock, but melancholy and sad kind of thing. It was kind of deep, and it was the perfect song for it. So special thanks to Sean
Beer, beer, beer. Yeah,
for that.
Sean's really talented.
But the project was, it needed to be an interview.
Okay.
It was supposed to fit into a 4 to 5 minute time constraint, which uh, is really hard. I mean, it's hard for me to keep things short to begin with,
Hmm.
but honestly, you gave me in that hour and a half of interview so much to work with. I probably could have produced 4 or 5 videos out of that. Um, and it was really, really hard. So when we started off with the interview, I thought it was going to mostly be about your bike, and I thought it was almost going to be a little bit more of a metaphor. But then where you went in answering some of the questions, I felt there was another story that could be told.
Hmm.
And I felt the story that I was telling was this man who lives with a lot of passion and gives a lot to others, but maybe sometimes doesn't always take the time to give to himself what he gives to others.
Mm.
And I don't know if you would necessarily feel that's accurate, but that was kind of the story that I felt was coming out. And so I wanted to do the best that I could to tell the story I wanted to tell about my friend, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and of course, there's the cinematic or the cinematography aspect of it where I'm trying to play around with a few different things. We used some GoPro footage that you'd taken on your bike.
Hmm.
We got a little bit of drone footage, um, and so I wanted to learn as I went along. I wanted to learn more editing, but I wanted to also get it just right, get the feeling just right. And I could have spent another 100 hours on it probably, and have definitely taken it up a little bit more. But at some point, you have to cut your losses. Not really cut your
Well,
losses. How do I
I mean,
say?
this is your first,
Tie it off.
right? This is your first.
It's my first real interview.
Is this your first real film that you've
Yeah, I
kind
guess
of?
if you called it a, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess,
Well, I mean, it's a film. You have
yeah,
done
it's a short film.
a. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did submit it to a
Well, yeah, we're
couple
not.
of,
Hey, strap in, everybody. We're getting ready to watch a
yeah,
2.5 hour
yeah.
biopic, but biopic, however you want to say it.
One or the other. We're not really sure. Yeah, so I don't know if that quite answers your question, but
Well,
that.
I think another thing I want to point out is
Mhm,
you talk about, oh, I gave you this stuff,
mhm,
right, while I was talking.
mhm,
I would not have been able to give you that stuff without the questions you
yeah.
asked me, right? Um, so yeah.
I appreciate that. I wasn't as prepared as I wanted. I had some good questions, I think.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't quite as prepared as I'd hoped to be, and it was just good that I was able to take it in a direction that I was happy with,
Hmm.
right? I will say, so we watched in the class, we watched all the class videos, and there were about 28 students in the class, I think. And there were a lot of really, really good ones. There were a couple where you could tell that the interview was either scripted or um, there were a couple who did self interviews.
Hmm.
There was one that she did a phenomenal job of, it was like a self interview. It was an amazing. She did a really, really great job. But you can tell when there's a bit of scripting, and it's not necessarily bad. It just comes off as a different feel, more
Hmm.
almost like a commercial maybe than like some sort of real thing. And for you, like none of it was scripted, right? And it came off. The passion came through, and you could tell that it was just something that was like just kind of coming out of your mind. And I was really happy with that part of the interview, where there was nothing that was scripted. So, so I felt that
Not
was
a
good.
I'm not a big fan of planned or scripted
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So
Now those that know you, know that you have, you can sometimes have epic pauses, not and we talked about this, not intentionally so,
right.
but, I did have to cut a lot of those out, or reduce them somehow. Um, it makes a huge difference, right? When I'm trying to fit the actual audio I think that I selected for it was probably 7 or 8 minutes, and I had
Okay.
to go and I had to chop that down. There were only a few ums or uhs here and there,
Right.
but by taking all of those out, taking out as much dead space as I could, I was able to compress it down to where I wanted it, and that was tough.
Well, it's twofold that um, behavior. I don't use a lot of ums and uhs.
Mhm.
I had an English teacher way back that very much instilled in me it's better to be silent than to fill the space with right? So that's part of it. Second, I often I miss the train or it I don't catch it, right? It's like these these thoughts are and it's like, "Oh, hey, that's a cool one. Let me grab it," you know? Um it reminds me a bit of Harry Potter alert for all the fans. Like when you first see some of the games of Quidditch, right, where they're trying to
Mhm.
chase the snitch, which is super fast
Mhm.
and seems out of control and all this, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa!" Right? That's kind of what it feels like
Yeah.
sometimes. And so I'm like, I'll just sit right here,
Mhm.
and maybe it'll like the Boy Scouts, right? Sit still,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then they'll come back around and
Mhm.
find you.
You know what? One thing that was interesting, and this is something the professor had asked me about. How many times that I watched the video, right? And it wasn't like how many times did I watch the final one, but how many times I watched a version of it. And I don't know if it quite reached 100, but it would have been close if it hadn't surpassed 100 times.
Hmm. Okay.
And I remember the first cut that I shared with you.
I liked it.
I was pretty happy with it. I'm like, damn, I was kind of like, well, right, yeah, I really like that story, right?
Hmm.
And I really think, I hope that the final video surpassed that. I hope, right? But I'd watched it so many damn times that I was becoming so numb to anything in it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That like I'm like this. Like, is this cool anymore? I don't even know if this is cool.
Was that his point? Is
You
have
have
you
to
watched it too much?
right, and you have to take a step back,
Okay.
right? You really have to like stop for a few days, maybe longer, and then go back to it and be like, yeah, yeah, it's good, right? You know, and it'd be like, like there are movies that I've seen that I thought were awesome. And I said, gosh, I wish I could watch that movie again for the first time. But you
Right.
can't, right? You
Mm-mm.
you can't have that initial impact, that novelty again. So I'm hoping that the final product was pretty good. I was happy with it. Definitely is my first major. I wouldn't call it my first film project that for me was major.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, I would
yeah,
call it. A, I mean, it's a movie,
yeah.
right? It has
It's a small
a
documentary.
beginning,
Yeah.
a middle, and end. It has direction. It's not
Mhm.
just you didn't flip the camera on, say go, dance,
Mhm.
and then cut it off and say,
Yeah,
"Well, there it is. I made a movie." No, you
yeah,
recorded something,
yeah,
right? Which is what I'm capable of,
yeah,
recording something.
yeah. We
So
transformed your garage as an interview space.
that was unreal. I want
Yeah.
to talk about that just for a second.
Okay.
So I have a very small single bay, 10 by 20, something like this, garage. Um, it has, well, now it has a gigantic tool chest that my wife gave me, but it has two bikes. One's a bagger and one's the star of this show, Marzana. Anyway, and then some tools, just normal stuff in a garage. He comes over, he brings us all this gear to work with. Um, he doesn't bring it for us. He brings it for himself because I don't know what to do with anything. I think the only thing I touched was the lapel mic. Maybe I think he let me touch that.
Yeah, you screwed that up.
And then did I?
Nah.
Oh,
Good.
and then we're like hanging stuff, positioning the bike in a certain way. There's light sources, a couple different audio positions. The camera's just so, and even watching it be set up, right? The final image, right, was not what I expected, and so that's cool, right? And to see what you can do with a space, because if I didn't know where it was filmed, I wouldn't know where it was filmed. And I know that sounds like a ridiculous statement, but it's very true. It could have been done anywhere on a little
Mhm.
film lot, whatever. So I really liked that part of it. I liked seeing the behind the scenes nature of the B roll, how you took what you took, then how it got wrapped in, what I imagined was necessary to show a certain thing.
Mhm.
And we talked about this in one of the episodes of the podcast. At least we touched on it maybe 5, 6 episodes ago regarding nature documentaries. Um, yeah. And so it's just cool, right? To me, the entire process. So, do we want to start? Do you think watching it now?
Yeah. How about we do this? You and I will get it queued up on our individual computers,
Hmm.
and you and I will watch it, right? And we'll record our, reactions and things. And then when I actually cut this final video to put on YouTube, then I'll put the higher quality version there.
Sounds good.
For the listeners at home, we'll just kind of do a cut, right? And get to the end where we start talking about it. But we'll have the link there in the podcast to be able
So
to
if they
see
want to go
so
check it
they can
out.
go and watch the full thing on YouTube. That way they don't feel too left out.
Yeah.
Does that
Well,
sound
and
good?
what I think will be interesting also from this is I would like to see if, because we have some listeners that probably don't check out what you're putting up mainly right now on the channel
Mm-hmm.
on YouTube, and vice versa. And it would be interesting to see if there's crossover of interest,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm excited for this experiment,
Yeah, let's try it
and
out.
that's ready to go.
Yeah, I've got mine ready. You can hit play.
Yeah, let's hit play in
Ready?
1,
2,
2, 3,
3.
2, 1. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chasing Quality Podcast. This is RJ. I don't know that I can define quality. You look at it and you say, yes, this is worth my time. When we started the podcast, we said, what are we doing? And it's the fact that we're chasing quality, that thing that is going to improve the job we do, the life we live, and the way we treat others. I think I mainly chase quality in my pursuit as a human being, how I deal with others. That's the journey I've been on the longest and have made some of the best progress, but it also is the one probably that I have the most progress to go. This is something that has become even more central in my mind since my father passed. There were things that I was failing to do in my relationship with my wife that were then highlighted when I was, living with my mom for a couple weeks after my dad died. I then started to see this pattern, needing to be heard, needing to be listened to, seeing it, in my mother as she dealt with that loss. For the first 2 weeks of it, I didn't handle it. I was helping my mother deal with it. At his memorial service, I got very emotional. Didn't think I would. I had written up notes for the things I wanted to say, and when I got up there to say them, just emotions started happening. I think I was grieving my father, but I think I was also mostly grieving for that woman down there in the front row. I don't know how well I've dealt with it, or if I have. What is supposed to be, and what is even, truly our safest space, where we can be the most vulnerable, the least judged, very often can be the scariest place.
Do I have a place where I can go to get the thing that I provide others? I don't think I let myself have that. I think I need it, and it will break through. I have I have some very good friends that would be that. I know my wife would be that. I know that my sister and my mother would be that. So I do have it, but I do not take advantage of it. I have to be on 24/7. I've helped some people through some really dark stuff. If they think I'm not in a place where I can help them, then what would have happened? I don't know that I see myself in my bike at all. I see the fruit of my labor in it. It looks rough and badass and all these things that I'm not. I'm not hardcore. I want to be passionate and compassionate and squishy and approachable. And this bike is anything but that. She's almost my foil in a way. And we attack the road together.
You need to be content in every moment before you get there. Because what if you don't get there? The only moment we have is now.
Peace is not something that I can attain. I've never felt it
Oh my fucking
because I'm always driving forward for something more. I've had peaks, and they often are connected to riding or wrenching. The road is right below your foot. The wind is right in your face. Everything that you're experiencing is right there. How's the bike sound? Is it performing correctly? Am I going to break physics on this corner and dump it? You have to make sure everything is just so that you don't die. All that takes parts of your mind and just kind of busies them so that you can get to the point of silence, alone, in the wind, on the road. I think with regret comes this inability to let go. You're chasing yourself, and in a way, yourself is chasing you. All the decisions you made in the past, who you think you might want to be in the future. You're chasing that person, and that person back there, if you let it, is chasing you. And some people are chasing their now self, which is the one you need to focus on. Because that's the one who's here, the one who messed up. The RJ who's divorced twice is back there. He can't catch me, nor can I reach out and change him. And then the RJ up there, who knows what he's doing. I can't see him, I can't tell him anything, he can't inform me. So I need to spend my time finding me here now, being available if people need me. I think something's chasing everybody, but they're not paying attention.
That guy. Until next time, keep chasing that quality, because you know we will. And I really like how you did the credits. Just very to the point,
Yeah.
It's not... All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop.
Yeah, I've paused it too, or stopped it, I guess. Yeah, I was
And
trying to get the credits to go, slow enough to go with the music.
Mhm.
Something just very simple. I even used as simple of a font as I possibly could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I really like it.
thanks,
So,
man.
for everybody's knowledge and edification, I have watched this video. This is only my second time watching it now. You released it, what?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
That would have been the 16th, I think.
So I watched it once, and then we had floated this idea of potentially doing a semi-reaction to it, question and answer, whatever kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And so I kept myself from watching it again. Excuse me. And with the purpose of having it be fresh, I think kind of like almost what your professor spoke to,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
If I watched it 15 times, in some sort of ego-driven whatever, yeah, I might miss some things when we come to talk.
Hmm.
So it's my second time, and so I'm just gonna start talking about some of the stuff I noticed,
All right.
liked, looked at, and it'll be chronological
Okay.
because that's how I have it written.
Cool.
Um, so when I spoke earlier about you doing the B-roll
Mm.
and the way you worked it in, right? Um, there's three things actually right off the bat that handled or that point to what I'm talking to there. So at 28 seconds in, I have in the other room this tin metal motorcycle that's on the wall. And I saw you taking pictures of all the stuff on the walls, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be cool. But I really like the way you brought in, I guess it's not fully, but the sound of my bike
Yeah.
while you went by that. I like
Mhm.
that a lot. Um, then at 1 minute 25, where I'm fiddling with the carb, the phrase I'm actually saying is handle it. I don't know if I handle it. So I don't know if you did that
Mm.
on purpose, but I
Mhm.
thought that was interesting.
No, that's good.
And that's why I wanted to do this, because I think sometimes you might make a decision that's almost subconscious.
Hmm.
You might make a decision on purpose, and I wanted to kind of tease those out just for my edification. This is the big one. This is one of the biggest parts that struck me in this film was at 137. I'm talking about, by your nod, I'm assuming
Hmm.
yes. I talk about how I'd kind of held in a lot of my
Hmm.
emotion, and then at the memorial service that I got very emotional.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because at that point you do the B-roll of the front of the fairing on my Indian Challenger, and there's a single bead that comes down almost like a tear.
Hmm.
And I'm assuming you had to have done that on purpose.
It eventually was on purpose.
Okay.
The timing of it, I don't know where, like, I don't know how I noticed that when that happened, and I thought, oh damn, if I can line that up, and
Hmm.
I hope it wasn't too heavy handed, right?
I don't think
Um,
it was.
but it was that whole scene, that sequence of, I think, three or four cuts or three or four shots where you've got the rain falling, and then you've got the close up, and that one drop of rain that falls off.
Uh-huh.
And then you've got it. You're kind of then cleaning the bike, right? You're wiping it off.
Oh,
It's almost like you're kind of like, in a way, picking up the pieces or a little bit,
right.
or addressing it.
Like an image of mental
Yeah.
housekeeping.
So it wasn't originally intended that way. But as I was adjusting things, it started lining up more, and then it kind of came to me, and I really liked that part.
Yeah, I like that even more now. I mean, I liked that portion,
Hmm.
with the other bike and the
Hmm.
rain and all that, because she had to sit outside while we
Yeah.
recorded, and it was raining that day.
Hmm.
Um, but no, now especially now that you talk about that analogy, metaphor, uh, image of a concept, I like that a lot. The picking up the pieces. Um, of course, there's at 247. There's, I don't see myself in my bike,
Yeah.
and of course, you have an image of me seeing myself in my bike. So I don't know if that's your commentary on
That
my
one,
viewpoint of myself.
yeah, that one was maybe a little bit heavy handed, but then, like, yeah, I mean, there's this RJ that you want to be compassionate and squishy and all that stuff, but at the same
Hmm.
time, you do present a rough image, kind of a tough guy thing, right? A bit of a shell. You were a devil dog at one point, and you're a
Yeah.
curmudgeon, and you're hung there, But I thought it was good. I mean, I think
This
that's
was
kind of
given to me, by the
that's
way.
part of it, though. I mean, that's a struggle that we all go through, right? Of taming ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Self-image and how we
Mhm.
groom that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, oh, and so this was one of my favorite outcomes was while we were recording the podcast, audio podcast like we normally do, right? We do it on Zoom,
Hmm.
so we can see each other. And you had started recording one day,
Yeah.
and I noticed it at some point. I forget when. And as soon as we stopped recording, you said, "Hey, man," and I'm like, "Yeah, now I saw." You were recording, but that's where the title of your short comes from,
Mm.
and I really like that.
Yeah.
Um, and we'll come back to the title at the
Mhm.
end. I did not think that portion. So at 3:30, where
What portion are
think
you
I'm
talking about?
I think I'm getting on to I think
Y-
that's 3. I'm merging on to,
Yeah.
and there's a guy that is,
Trying to cut you off or something.
well, just it's unpleasant on a motorcycle at
Hmm.
times because you're like right there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like my bike hits him, his car gets scratched,
Hmm.
maybe even dented, right? But he's sitting over there. I assume it's a guy. I don't know why. He's sitting over there in the driver's seat, like, hey, no big deal.
Hmm.
My leg's broken.
Yeah. Your
You know what I
face
mean?
is scraped off. Yeah.
I mean, I make the choice to ride the bike
Right.
before people climb down in the comments and say, well,
Yeah.
I know, right? I know it's a dangerous thing.
Hmm.
But that's funny. I didn't expect
Yeah.
to see that.
Hmm.
Thank you. Um, the, I think I was a little dramatic at 4 minutes when I said, everything has to be just so or you can die. I
You
mean,
can
it's
die.
true, but
But it is. But it's true. A, it's true,
it's a
and
bit.
B, I think it underscores the idea of quality and chasing quality. Right. I mean,
Well,
is the reality that these things are important, right? And it's that aspect of caring and
right,
knowing what could possibly happen if you don't do a good job
right,
tweaking your bike or maintaining it.
right.
Right.
Well, and it's very true. It just,
Hmm.
I think some people who don't know me well
Hmm.
would see that as posturing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
While I'm speaking, and I promise you, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
There were plenty of things that I had to leave out.
yeah.
So there were things that I kept in. So I mean, I thought it was helpful. I thought it was a good point.
Yeah. Um, one of my favorite things, and I know I've said favorite a bunch of different times already, but they're favorite for different reasons. And if you know, review the tape, I'm sure it will be like, this is my favorite sound clip. This is my favorite decision for that. This is my favorite this. But around 4:33, you have this, what looks, I think, very smooth, but is this collage almost of me coming down the road toward the camera, and me on the side of the road watching myself come and pass and then leaving, right? And I remember the filming of each of these things, right? Like I'm
They were all different scenes.
yeah, I'm literally just looking for traffic,
Hmm.
right? So as not to get pancaked.
Hmm.
And then, we were just like, oh man, that's a cool looking little stretch of road there. It's got the little S curve, and it had a bit of an elevation change.
Hmm.
And I really like what you did with it there.
Hmm.
And because it gives you the idea of me watching myself, thinking about myself, engaging with myself, whatever. But it doesn't have that that fakey feel
Hmm.
of having two RJs on camera that have been, digitally spliced in, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, hey, you can tell. You can just tell there's something wrong because color correction, whatever. But I like that bit a lot. And then finally, and this will tie us back to the title bit from 322, is at 507. I'm talking again about now,
Hmm.
right? And in the title, I'm talking about now, and it's just, it strikes me because that's something that I've had to, or I've chosen to cultivate, is this nowness, right? This present, being present, um, trying not to, just things that I have, tools that I've used to deal with things that are outside of my control, um, either because they're gone, because they have not happened, because it's in someone else's control or hands. I've cultivated this sort of a mindfulness, being present in the situation, and I now hope that I don't just harp on it all the time. Like I'm not like, oh, here goes RJ with his broken record about now. But it, obviously in an hour and a half conversation, I talked about it at least twice.
Hmm.
That made the cut. Um,
I think it's good. I think it's actually a good topic for a podcast too. Maybe after the new year.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
being
Yeah,
present.
because there's a balance there, right? There's a balance between living too much in the now, and then not living in the now at all, right?
Oh, for sure.
So I think it's a
And it can help in
yeah.
dealing with times that are out of the norm,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like we kind of currently find ourselves in.
Yeah.
If you, and you have to clarify that, I think, because living in the now could be understood by someone,
Hmm.
right, as an implicit task to bury themselves in the news.
Yeah.
Well, that's the now. It's the news, right? It's not history. It's
Hmm.
not science fiction, right? Back and present. It's the now.
Hmm.
But if I'm buried in that news feed, that Facebook feed, that Instagram feed, that Twitter feed, say feed one more time, um, then I'm not present with my dog, my wife, even something simple as bathing dogs, right? Which I talked about at the top of the show. My big dog is a big dog. Mala, the first one, for those of us who see the video or have seen it, she's the light brown one. She's a big girl. And if I'm not paying attention and being present while bathing her, things can go sideways quick because she's strong, she's powerful, she might jump, wet, slip and slide and run into something. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I talk about it, and I think that's a good idea for a podcast.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I want you, now that I've ran my mouth for probably 20 minutes about what I saw, can you tell me some of the things that you're most proud of, maybe least proud of, and or self-hypercritical of, right? And then
Yeah.
we can discuss that.
So, as far as most proud, I guess I was just happy that I was able to get what I felt was a cohesive story, start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if everybody would see it that way, but that's kind of how I see it. And I guess that's the thing about art, right? And we've talked about this a little bit. Is there are going to be critics everywhere,
Yeah.
and I can't. If I'm trying to make something to sell, then maybe I should care about the critics. If I'm making something for myself or a friend, then maybe I don't need to care.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very happy and proud that I was able to get a story that I wanted to tell in there. Um, I was happy with the colors for the most part, most of the light. I was happy with the interview scene. As far as there's nothing that I'm terribly disappointed about. I wish I would have had more opportunity to get B roll, other B roll, because I was really stretching it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I was using almost everything I possibly could from what we took for B-roll. And there were some things that I'm like, okay, I like the scene. I wish I could go back and get it better in focus, or uh, maybe have the panning slower or more smooth, or um, frame it differently. Whatever it might be.
Right.
Um, when you watch it
I would have
enough,
done that.
yeah. Well, I mean, we only have so much time, right? I'd already
Right.
invested so much time.
Right.
Um, if if you watch it enough as the editor, um, and that's the thing, that's the challenge of being a one man show is you're in theory, the writer, the film, the cinematographer, the director, the editor, all these things, right? And
Right.
so there becomes almost a conflict of interest. But as the editor, as I'm going through and making minor tweaks, then when I go back and watch the video, it's those minor tweaks that I'm focused on.
Okay.
This time when I watched it, there were a couple things that had bothered me a little bit in the past, and they didn't bother me so much this time through.
Okay.
They would bother me if I went back in as editor. But for example, I think it was at 57 seconds where
Mhm.
you're sitting there reading your book, which in a way is kind of a cool spot. You're reading Lila, and the page that you actually have up talks about the metaphysics. I don't remember the phrase, but quality is in there. And if somebody's
Mhm.
looking carefully, they're going to see quality right there.
Mhm.
Um, but it's the transition from your face reading, going down to where the book is. I didn't like the way the two cuts lined up,
Okay.
the transition from the one to the other. I felt it was too, maybe on your face, it was too slow or too zoomed in or something.
Okay.
Um, but so there's little things like that. Couple of scenes where again I wish they were a little bit more in focus. And I'm still a little bit debating the final, like the final scenes where I have it glitching. I have it glitching on purpose, obviously, to imply that somebody is watching you, whether it's Big Brother or something, or you watching yourself, whatever it might be. But it's a reminder that there is a camera there, right?
Mhm.
Um, because the ideal I think with a lot of filming is that you don't want the audience to feel there's a camera. You want the audience to feel they're part of the scene.
Right.
And the purpose of that was to remind them, oh shit, we're watching RJ through a lens.
Right.
Who's
There's a
watching it?
watcher.
Who are right. So I don't know if that was gimmicky or served its purpose.
Mhm.
I had fun doing it. Um, I just don't know if it maybe potentially took away from the rest of it. But I mean, that's pretty much
I know
where
the
I'm at
only
with it.
thing I thought about it was I think I expected it to happen at most 3 times. I think it happened a
Mm.
fourth time.
Oh, okay.
Just a rule of threes kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, but I like it more. So I don't know what I'd say, what level I liked it at.
Yeah.
Right. It was an interesting effect.
Mm.
It was cool, but it was just kind of like, okay, cool, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I have a better understanding of why, right?
Mhm.
What its goal is. So now, as I go to watch it, when I watch it next, because I'm going to go watch it again after we have this conversation,
Mhm.
because it will give me, I'll watch it with a different eye,
Mhm.
right? I think I'll like it more. That's my hypothesis, right? Because now I have an idea of what your intent is, and I think that's missed a lot in any sort of art, whether it be literature, film, music. If the author of that content is going for something, right? It's like a lot of people don't like metal vocals. Well, it's that way for a reason,
Yeah.
right? They choose the voices change. These people don't
Mhm.
talk like that,
Yeah.
right? It's done for effect. It's making the voice an instrument almost with distortion, right?
Mhm.
Well, period, with distortion.
Right.
Um, and so that intent, I think, is incredibly important to understand or find out.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. There was something I was going to say about it, but yeah, I mean,
sorry.
No, it's all right. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with it. I don't know if I'll get an A or not, but we'll see. And yeah, it was cool. And you and
If you
I
don't
were
get an A,
talking.
I'm gonna start up Occupy Classroom.
Uh, you and I were talking about doing another one, and it's actually going to be you interviewing me, and so that could be kind of cool after the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, doing that. But I honestly, I had a lot of fun doing the interview thing, right? I really, it's really a skill that I would like to hone a little bit more and have more opportunity to do. At the same time, I don't know if it would actually take me anywhere and if it would just be kind of like a more of a distraction. So I've got to figure that out,
Mm-hmm.
where I want to go with that. I don't think it would take me nearly as much time to edit future interviews because this was a little bit different, partly
Right.
because of the getting the grade, and partly because of what this first one meant to me, and then you being the subject of it and all that stuff. Um, but yeah, we'll see where it goes. We'll see what I do with it. Had a lot of fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, again, I think it turned out great.
yeah.
I think the ideas and the filming were great. I think Sean's piece is
Mhm.
great, and I think it fits very well. Um, I like it,
Thanks.
which to me is saying a lot because I'm in it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
quite often, I will absolutely despise hearing myself, seeing myself on some sort of a recording, right? Because
Hmm.
that doesn't sound like me, right? Because obviously I'm hearing myself echoing around in my head, whatever, right? Like we all sound great in the shower singing, but if someone like records it, you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Did you
Hmm.
record that on the bad filter?
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. I was overall pretty pleased with the audio too. It wasn't it wasn't quite where I hoped it would be originally, but we had a bit of an issue with the microphones. I'm glad I recorded two sources, and I had to do a lot of de-reverb to
Mm,
get the echo. Even though I put those blankets and stuff up, there's still a bit of echo in your garage. But I think it turned out pretty good. Once I added in just a little bit of ambient noise,
hmm.
uh, I thought it sounded pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. So, um, yeah,
Nice. Yeah, well,
yeah,
that's the
nice.
stuff about sound. I took
Hmm.
a short class on, the Audacity recording program, and we touched slightly on things like that. We kind of approached it from the other angle of removing noise from a track because of how it interferes.
Hmm.
But the opposite holds true, or not even the opposite. Sometimes you'll want to bring in noise to counteract a specific frequency, right? To tamp that down or out
Hmm.
so you can focus on the thing you want to focus on. So it's just very cool. And it's stuff that I don't fully understand,
Well,
obviously.
what's really tricky about it too is, when you go to edit it, what are you listening through as you edit it? Right
Right.
now I've got on these Sony MDR 7506s, which are pretty good. They're very harsh, isn't the right word, but they're very, I guess, in a way, transparent. Like you hear a lot of things that I wouldn't want to listen to music through
Right.
these.
Well, they're monitors, right? They're supposed
They're
to be
monitors.
flat
They're
to show
monitors,
you what.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but the thing is that most people don't listen through monitors, right?
Right.
So at times I have to go back and listen through. I need to actually get a couple speakers, like a couple studio speaker monitors in here, so that then I can play things back through multiple speaker types to get a better idea of what the final product's going to sound like. Because it may sound good in here,
Hmm.
but it may not sound good in a car.
Right.
And there's certain frequencies in a car that are they're gonna resonate and cause like the speaker to vibrate a little bit or
Hmm.
whatever. So, but yeah, no, I was pretty happy with that. So
And I think you should be.
yeah, so thanks. How
Yeah,
about
man.
we move on to we don't have much time for our other topic,
We don't.
but we can chat through it real quick and
Yeah.
talk about where we see ourselves going in the new year with the podcast.
Hmm.
And we are. I should say also we are gonna not record for the next 2 weeks,
Yeah.
week and a half. Whatever. We'll come back.
Small break.
A small break. Yeah. So what are your thoughts of past year and going forward?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is our first year,
Hmm.
and we've done 40 episodes.
Hmm.
We were at 2 a week. We moved to 1 a week due to work constraints and time
Hmm.
constraints.
Hmm.
Um, I I think we've come a decent way,
Hmm.
to be honest. We're more comfortable with our
Hmm.
processes. We, you do the mix down or whatever of the audio, and I think it just continues to sound better. Um, I think our topics and our engagement on those topics is improving. We got some good feedback early on about how we were approaching things,
Hmm.
and I think we implemented, those things. Um, Before we move into next year, how do you see this year?
I say that's pretty good. I mean, I think the conversations have been good. I can't. I don't know what it's like for the audience.
Right.
To get true feedback. And what they'd like to listen to. One one challenge is making it searchable, right? When we talk in these abstract topics,
Hmm.
and when people are trying to find podcasts to listen to, they may be looking for concrete things. I'm looking for a new video card or a woodworking podcast or something on motorcycles, right?
Right.
And I don't know how many people are really looking for more of the abstract conversation. But it's also hard to, when I go and do the show description, to put things into that description that may be search terms.
Right. Because
You
you don't
know,
want to steer someone in.
yeah. I don't want any
Um,
clickbait.
right. You want them to be there because they want to be there.
Right. Right. But no, I've been happy with it. I've been happy with the progress. I do, and I guess I don't know if it's okay for us to go on to the next year now. If you're okay with
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that you and I have talked about getting, doing a few more concrete topics.
Hmm.
Start looking at things. We also have talked about, I don't know if you call them reviews, but like a shared experience that you and I, uh, whether it be a movie or a book or whatever, and then we talk about that.
Hmm.
That's helpful because right now I'm kind of talking about a topic from my separate experiences and your separate experiences, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's awkward. Not very often, but sometimes. And so
Right.
we'll do that. Trying to think what else. Maybe we may do more of these video ones. We'll see where that goes. It'd be cool to get a couple interviews on here. But COVID's made that a little bit of a challenge.
Hmm.
And the way we record, you and I have it down,
Hmm.
kind of like to a science. But that might be a challenge bringing a third person on.
Don't want to blind them with science.
And
Thomas Dolby, huh?
and then let's see, what was the last thing? The last thing, um, I guess maybe just working on yeah, fleshing out the descriptions a little bit more,
Right.
perhaps. Yeah. You'll be moving in the spring, and so we'll see how that has an impact. I don't think it'll have too much of an impact, but maybe some.
I
What
mean,
about
we'll have
you?
to do our interview with you beforehand.
Yeah.
That'll have to happen.
Yeah, and that can be pretty easy. I've got plenty of B-roll now. It depends on what the interview is, right?
Right.
Um, but I can do the B-roll myself. But yeah, cutting the interview, you set up the questions, and come out here or wherever we go, and we set up that scene and do the interview. And then once we have that, the other stuff can get filled in. We don't have to edit it right away.
Right.
What about you? What are you looking forward to?
For the new year, for this,
Yeah.
I mean, really the same things because we've talked about it.
Hmm.
Um, I like the idea of the discussing the shared experiences. Um, and depending on the types of things that we pick, if we queue it up the previous week,
Hmm.
right, then the listener, the watcher, can take part in that,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? And have an engagement.
Mm-hmm.
They can come prepared and,
Yeah.
yell at the speaker or whatever. Um,
Yeah, I almost wonder if we need to start a running list of those things, right? So we can
that would
kind of
be a good idea.
prepare ahead of time. Yeah. Yeah.
One last thing, and maybe this is pie in the sky, but I mean, it's not. We could easily do it. But, you know, recording this, talking on here, doing this in this manner makes me think about what if we did something live?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the channels I watch, they do Q&As, right? So if we queued up, say, hey, on such and such a date, we're going to discuss whatever. Short story, a song, an album, Pink Floyd's The Wall, whatever, stuff we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
before. Then the people who choose to come and join, they would be able to ask questions and we could answer. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
hadn't thought about that. That could be cool.
So,
It's funny. Real quick tangent. You mentioned the wall. So I've been doing this neurofeedback, right?
mhm.
And one of my more recent sessions, you sit there and you're basically you're watching a screen and it's got these little planets that show up and
Mm.
and whatever and it's doing stuff. And anyway, up until that point, for the previous protocol that I was doing, it was like the sound of ocean waves. But once I started this new one with these planets and things, I could choose whatever music I wanted.
Oh,
And the brain scientist or whatever, suggests that I could, it doesn't matter what the music is. So I'm like, all right, I'll try the
okay.
wall, right? And it's trippy, right? It's just as trippy as the movie almost. Like you're watching like this kind of like the solar system, these like planets appearing and
hmm
and the walls going off, and I couldn't do it. It was almost like the psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of messed me up a little bit, so I had
Should
to switch
try
back to some classical music.
Rush's 2112 next time.
All right, I'll consider that. Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
little less mentally
yeah.
invasive.
All right. I wish I could get my wife to watch The Wall, but she really doesn't like Pink Floyd. I don't know if that's a common thing among the female gender. Maybe they don't really like Pink Floyd as much.
I have no clue. I've never
I
I've
haven't met a
never
single
really
woman who's
asked
enjoyed it.
people if
Yeah,
they
yeah,
like or don't like it.
yeah. So,
Hmm.
all right. Well, we probably should start wrapping up.
Sounds good.
We've just surpassed an hour. So we've got a break of about a week and a half or so.
Mhm.
Oh, my stomach. Need to get some bacon. What do you have planned for the holidays? Anything
Not too
good?
much.
No.
Not too much. Some downtime, spending some time
Okay.
with the wife and dogs. Some reading. Finishing up Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance
Yep.
again.
Yep.
I'll be moving on to Lila right after that, just because
Okay.
I always read them back to back. Um, that's probably about it. Probably trying to get, did I already say downtime?
Hmm.
Just some space, some mental space and relief, right? I think we all need that.
Yeah.
I think it'll be key for people to, even if they can't get together in the way they used to or might want to set time aside, whether on the phone, on Zoom, on your Google Meetups, whatever, to spend some quality time deliberately.
Hmm.
Deliberately do some things to improve your now. There I go with now.
There you go. Yeah.
How about you? What
Well,
you got going on?
we're hoping to travel.
Really?
Yeah, we're hoping to travel between Christmas and New Year's. We'll see. We're a bit on the fence.
Okay.
It's air travel, which actually I think has been pretty safe up until recently because most people weren't flying. But I think a lot of people now are at the point where they're kind of tired and they want to fly and stuff. So we're still kind of debating that. We've got all of our reservations,
hmm
but we're not interested in getting sick all that much, and we're definitely not interested in getting our family sick. So
Right.
we're kind of weighing that just a little bit. Uh, get back to work on these cabinets. Actually, after we finish recording today, I'm going to go do a little bit more work on the cabinets. Um, the Same as you, trying to finish up Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I hope to finish over the next week. Right, I will not be joining you for Lila, um, but yeah, I'm pretty close. Then we'll have that episode where we kind of talk through it. I've been highlighting things, and I've been trying to take my time a little bit more.
Hmm.
Last time I listened to it as an audiobook, and this time I'm reading through it. And there are some things that, like, if I'm like reading fiction and it's not very complicated fiction, I can read through it pretty quickly.
Right.
This A lot of this is not fiction,
Hmm.
and it's kind of dense, so I've got to slow down a little bit. And then just enjoying time with my kids and the family. Christmas and all that, presents, and yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah. So I look forward to it. So, all right, man. Well, it was good talking to you.
Yeah, man.
And to the listeners and to the viewers, I haven't really been looking at the lens. RJ, you're much better at looking at the lens than I am.
Try to.
I've been looking at RJ's face over there. Thank you for joining us. And if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, now if you're watching this, you're probably on the YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, you can just search on, I think it's Chasing Quality Podcast.
Okay.
I don't know. Chasing quality isn't terribly uncommon as individual search terms, so
Right.
you have to search a little bit. Check out those videos there. And I guess until next time, just keep chasing that quality, because we will.
Peace.
Bye-bye.